I know how I'm going to fix myself. I'm going to build a time machine.
Within that, and that was an eye kitchen.
So I've got a bunch of junk on the ground, and then it will start evolving.
And how you find the places to exhibit your very extravagant artwork.
To live like that, and this is normal for an artist of my kind.
At which point you realize that yes, you are a full-time artist.
Probably my greatest single achievement that I've done, because it's really not that easy to do.
It gives me more confusion than clarification.
That's it. I've had enough. I'm quitting.
I restart that again. Hi, today Art in Adelaide is visiting Steve Oatway at his extravagant art house in Mannum. Hi Steve, how are you?
Alex, how are you? Welcome.
Could you tell when you start creating this kind of art and what inspired you to create in this incredible and very interesting way?
This is called an art house, so where every room becomes an artwork. I went and met a friend called Jungle Phillips, and he's currently down on Marion Road, where he's got an art house there. So it would have been 2006, I think I started. I had a house in Craigmore, and I started doing this sort of installations in the house, and every room become a different installations. When I went to see Jungle, that allowed me, when I seen his house, it allowed me to live like that, and this is normal for an artist of my kind. So since 2006, I think it was, I started. I've been here 10 years. This is a rental. So God bless my beautiful landlords, Margie and Faye. 10 years this has been my, my thing. And it's growing and growing. I'm actually run out of room internally. I still have room outside.
So what's your preferred way to create? So you start from installations, and we see a lot of paintings as well.
Yeah, I do paintings as well, mostly portraits, pop art portraits, or with mixed media. Ideas come from, I might hear something on the news, I might read something. I'm an intuitive artist, so I don't really need much prompting to start something. I can find a bolt outside and that'll become something. This is my visual diary, what goes on here is my gauge to where I'm at in my, I would say, mental health. Some people would say I'm a bit mental the way I live, but just that's how it is.
Working as an intuitive artist, could you share how, for example, you could start collecting materials, and what way you decide to put that in the final artwork?
So I walk around my junkyard, I walk around inside, and something will just grab my attention, and then I'll start with that. So what I do is just chuck everything with this sculpture. I throw everything on the ground, just spread it around, and then it's more evolutionary is my art. I don't actually have a finished product until it starts evolving. So if I've got a bunch of junk on the ground, and then it will start evolving, and then it will become something. I recently did a penguin. I seen just a piece of metal that had a bend in it. That looked like the wing of an emperor penguin. And then I found a car ramp, turned that up on its end, added the two bendy bits, and that become a emperor penguin.
How long this kind of evolution could take in general?
So I did the COVID exterminator machine, which you've seen out the back there. That's a large machine. I do make machines. So that one you just keep adding and evolving and evolving. At some point you've got to just say stop. Otherwise it just becomes, but that's kind of exciting for me. So that one took quite a few months, the COVID machine. That was down at Sculptors by the Sea at Brighton. I think you said you've seen it?
Yeah, we've seen that, and that was an eye-catching piece of art.
Yeah, so I like making machines. I've got a water catcher machine there. This morning you've seen my time machine out the back. I get a lot of joy out of them because I never know when they're gonna finish and how they're gonna look. So evolution is probably the best terminology for my art. And I don't have to think too hard. I just trust my own process about, you know, what it might be or what it could be, more or less. So that's the excitement of it.
We see a lot of painting and installations at your art house, and previously we saw your COVID exterminator machine at Sculpture by the Sea or Brighton JT Sculpture Festival. We're always curious where else we could find pieces of artwork and how you find the places to exhibit your very extravagant artwork.
Yeah, so here obviously is where I create, so everything is here, and then I look at what exhibitions are around. We have the Arnold Gallery here in Mannum. I do the Sala Festival where I open up my art house and people come to me because I think it's more of an experience than just seeing one of my works at an exhibition. I've exhibited a lot at the Murray Bridge Regional Gallery, and I've probably had I've lost count of how many shows I've had there. So that is one of my favourite galleries to exhibit in because they always accept my work. Sometimes my work doesn't get accepted. There's censorship out there. I've actually exhibited in New York City a few years ago. So just any galleries that will accept my work and not have censorship on.
You mentioned displaying your artwork overseas in New York City.
Yes.
What was the experience? How you deliver your artwork? Was it a big installation or a couple of paintings?
No, it was a very controversial piece. It was Osama bin Laden doll. It was only 7 inches high, and so it was easy enough to package up, send over by post, and then it presented at the gallery. But so the piece was when the 9/11 towers went down, so it was a hot topic, and the gallery director, Bob, from Monk Dog's Gallery in Chelsea, New York, asked for a really powerful piece that would create or evoke an emotion. And I made the Osama doll, I put a plane in his stomach and I burnt it. And then that got me a death threat here in Adelaide, anonymous death threat in my post, in the letter in the post. That my days are numbered and I know nothing about the attacks, and so it was. I believe if you make something, you need to stand by it. So I got quite rattled by that. Went to the police, but once it went to New York, they absolutely put it front and centre in the gallery on a beautiful marble plinth, and there was 1,000 people come to the exhibition. Even President Bush was invited. And they embraced it. I wanted to express how I felt about it because those planes hitting the towers was one of the most horrific things I've seen, apart from my son being born, which is my beautiful thing. And then the towers come down, and it was just really rattled my brain and how that could happen. And my artwork obviously was related to that.
And apart from this not very pleasant experience, how people generally would respond to your artwork when they come to the exhibition at Sala, to your art house?
The people that know me obviously know me, so they're not surprised at all. They just look for what's new, because it's very hard to tell what's new and what's old here. But somebody that hasn't been here, they call it an assault of the senses, pretty much. I mean, it's I am art. I'm in art. I'm in it. You know, this is like being in. Well, it was that chocolate factory, the Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. We were in the Steve O's art house. You're in his art, and they get very, you know. One lady come here and she was very scared of mannequins, so I had to put sheets over them. Otherwise, she couldn't go from here to the next room because I've got more mannequins out there. But generally, they go away feeling shocked and surprised and joyous and happy because there's lots of colour here. There's lots of colour, and you know, so yeah, generally good. Others, you know, they might not say what they think. They don't want to offend me.
During the process of you creating your artwork, how much you have learned to start doing that, or you used that skills from previous experience?
So I was working 23 years in Department of Defence, and one of the roles I was doing was a environmental testing officer of explosive ordnance, and they sent me to do a welding course. I did the welding course, then I came back into the workshop and I was just practicing doing weld test pieces, only small pieces, and then all of a sudden I looked at the pieces I put together, and it was like magic. It was like I could see faces, I could see animals in these works, and it was just like, that changed my whole life, really. It's like, wow, that is just fantastic. Once I discovered the welding and then the recycling and the reincarnating of putting pieces together and bringing it to life, I actually left defence around 4 years later to live my dream as a full-time artist. And then I went to Broken Hill and on a farm and found some block and tackle, and I found all these different bits and I laid them out. And that was my first ever full-size portrait. Took all the bits home and welded them. I've still got the piece out the back there. I'm an accidental artist. That changed my life. Just doing some test pieces is incredible, really. So I gave up defence, and I was also heavily involved in boxing. That was my thing. Gave that up, gave my job up, and become a full-time artist, creating junk sculptures, reincarnating and giving stuff another life, and stopping it from going to landfill. So it's been a pretty wild ride for me. So that's how it all started, and now it's grown into this.
Many artists, when they start, they find it difficult to balance between doing a job and creating art at the same time. At which point you realize that, yes, you are a full-time artist?
Yeah, I understand. Very fortunate because I took a voluntary redundancy package. So I had a large sum of money being in defence for 23 years. So that was my safety net. So I was able to have an income from there and hit the art pretty much full time for a few years. It wasn't an issue about balancing work, and because I already had the money as my backup, and I was able to enjoy doing the art full time for quite a few years. Of course, the money runs out, and then maybe it wasn't the best decision to leave defence. It was a safe government job. Financially, it wasn't the best thing at the end, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally, it was priceless doing art. So that's, my mental health is key here. I wasn't happy in defence, and I've been doing it ever since, 20-something years now. And I work currently at the moment part-time on the Murray Princess boat. Do that a couple of days a week, and then I do my art, so that gives me a balance.
Working as a full artist now, what generates most of the revenue from your artistic process? Selling your artwork that you created for yourself out of your pure imagination, or commissioned artwork?
Yeah, a combination of commission work, some sales. I have a problem with sales because, and my best friends know this, I get attached to the works I make. Regardless if they're good, bad or ugly, it doesn't matter. I have an attachment to them. I struggle with selling. I'd rather look at the art myself here than maybe get a couple of $100 for a piece, because I've sold some works in the past quite cheaply, and I'm sorry that I did that. I'd rather have them here and look at the works myself. So also do workshops, do commission works. I've done some public artworks around the Murray lands as well. So pretty much a combination of things, but the most sale is probably from commission work. It's my work in essence, but it's designed by the commissioner, the person that wants that piece made. They give me a sketch, they want this, so I don't feel that attached.
What kind of commission people ask you to do?
So the Mannum Council have gotten me to do public works around Mannum, which were all destroyed in the floods. I've done some entrance statement work out at Nildoddy. As you drive into the town, there's got a big commission piece there. Tunkillo, I don't know if did you come up through Tunkillo Way or not. There's a ghost moth there. I did a collaboration with a local artist in there. That's also an entrance piece as well. And I do private commissions for, some small businesses and things like that. So, and just general. I have one really good friend that gets me to make something every year around Christmas as a gift for his family. So he's commissioned me on a lot of work. And others will come in and just say, could you make this or not? And then I'll work through the process with them and, come up with a plan. So commission work is probably the thing I will let go.
And your workshops, I'm curious what kind of things you do with people at your workshop. Was it painting, installations, or
No,
some
it's
sculptures?
junk. So junk sculptures, junk art, reincarnating. I did this amazing workshop at the bridge called The Station. It's a youth centre there out on a platform, on a train station platform. And the group of kids were carers for their parents. So they needed a bit of a break and some fun, and they look after their parents who are not able to look after themselves. And it was a really, really spiritually kind of workshop, because I could see the joy on the kids' faces. So I load up my trailer and take it down to there. We all unload it together. We give them, there's plenty of space there. We give them a space to work in. And then I give them some ideas, show them some portfolios, and then they start, but the kids just pick it up, boom, 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 like that, you know. And I also took some spray paint down. So when they finished their sculptures, there was probably 16 in the group, and they spray painted their work, so that added a bit of colour to the rust, and they made some incredible stuff. You know, the way their minds think. They teach me in a way, in reverse, by what they, you know, what's going on in their mind. It does give you an indication of what may be going, what's happening with them. So that particular workshop was fabulous. I do another one at Bridge Arts, where I'm a member of there in Murray Bridge. They have a dump on the property where we do it, so everything is there. We go down to the dump, we bring stuff back to a big workshop, get out the welders, and away we go, start making stuff. So again, that's a more older probably group, and again they do more garden art or animals or flowers and things like that, and some were sort of abstractly works as well. So that was a different type of group, from young to old. So it's always exciting. I enjoy watching what they create, you know. Some don't want anything welded, they just wire it together, or they use the what are they called, zip ties, and just whatever they can find, and they're just totally in the zone when they're making their stuff, like nothing else matters. So it's a really good escape.
Is recycling important for you as well?
Very, very. Must recycle, yes. That's no landfill. That's my part to society. Yeah, recycling is very important, because all this stuff I've got here out in my junkyard would just end up in landfill, pretty much. So I'm saving the bit in, you know, the environment is my part of what I'm doing for the universe.
Steve, and you not only create art, it seems like art is part of your own personality. It is on your outfit always, and in your appearance as well. How you incorporate that with your lifestyle?
Yeah, my dress code and my tattoos and everything that I have is just an extension of this. So sometimes I just like to say I am art. That's a bit pretentious, but I am art. I'm in it and all in it. And my body, my dress, the work around me, it's just a world of colour, and yeah, that's part of who I am. I've got a bunch of numbers on my hand here. 10 years, 11 years, 12 years is actually the years I've been sober. I'm an alcoholic, and I was also a drug addict. So 10 years ago I decided that's it. I've had enough, I'm quitting. So these coming up in 20th of February, next month, I will get 13 years sober, and that's probably my greatest single achievement that I've done, because it's really not that easy to do. So it's tattooed on my hand, so that from 10 years onwards, so every time I look at my hand, I know that I'm sober, and that's just a friendly reminder of me. I also used to cause a lot of chaos, which I've got chaos tattooed here back in the day. So I was, you know, a bit wild and woolly. So I cause chaos. The other words I have is then I ask for redemption, then I have honesty and integrity. So these are just reminders of how I want to be, the best version of myself that I can be, because you know, I'm very lucky to still be around, still be here. And if it wasn't for art, I don't know that I'd be here. Art has been my healer. It's just helped me tremendously in my addiction and my health and everything that I want to be good at and be the best person that I can be. So it's all a package, one big package.
And which particular artwork you're working at this moment, or you have just finished one which created the most powerful impact and you wanted to talk about?
There's two. There's the rat catcher, which I made, because after Mannum had floods 2 years ago, and a lot of the town was wiped out, and including artists' studios that were based on the river. So after the floods come the rats, and then the rats go to higher ground, and then they look for food and they infest the town, which really happened. Called in the Mannum Pied Piper, which is a fictional character. He plays his flute and brought all the rats and the mice out of Mannum, and so we can fix up the town. The other piece I worked on was a time machine. This is a very old piece. It's probably now 20 years old. I have had offers to sell, but it's my stability piece, the most powerful piece for me personally, because when I made it, what happened is I did something wrong, and I could not fix it. Just couldn't fix it. I went to shrinks, I went to doctors, I went to therapists. One morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, I was laying in bed, and this is at a previous art house, and I sat up, bolt upright like that. I know how I'm going to fix myself. I'm going to build a time machine. So I got out of bed at 5 in the morning. I knew I had some plates, and I had just a steering wheel and a seat. And I just sat there with that, and then it evolved like it does. Got in the machine when it finished. Took me a little while to finish it. Sat in there, put the special goggles on, closed my eyes. I went back to that moment that I couldn't fix. Knock on the door, and I just didn't open it. I didn't open the door. And then I came back to real time, and that healed me. So that worked. Go back in time, fix it, come forward. And the second story is the little Daniel across the road, 10-year-old little boy. He'd always wander over and say, "What you doing, mister? What you doing?" And so I'm building a time machine. He said, "Does it work?" Yeah, it works, mate, it works. "Can I sit in it?" So he sat in it. I said, "Now you've got to put these special goggles on and headphones and grab the steering wheel and off you go." It wasn't quite finished, didn't matter. "Oh, really?" So he sat in it, he got all excited, put the goggles on. I said, "Right, close your eyes, off you go." And he was gone for like, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes. And I'm rattling the bells and making him sound like he's moved, he's actually gone in space. And came back, took the goggles off. And I said to him, "Daniel, where did you go?" And he said, "Oh, I went and hung out with Dad. We ate pizza. We went to the movies, went for a nice drive." And I said, how's your dad now?" And he said, he died 5 years ago. And I went, "Oh my God, that really," so I know it works. It works, it worked for that little boy. Kids don't lie. And he spent the time with his father, and his dad had been gone for 5 years. So that was just a beautiful, beautiful moment for me. So it healed me and it helped him. And I've actually, I've got logbooks with the time travellers that have been in there. So I've got all the journeys people have gone on. Addicts have gone in there. Had a heroin addict went in there, and he went forward to see if he would ever recover. So there's been some really interesting stories in my logbook of the time travellers.
So how many travellers already used your machine?
Back in the early days, there was a lot. I got a whole book full of travellers. I wouldn't like to think. I mean, everyone that came there because they heard about this time machine, and they all came there. I really think that the therapist should have some kind of a time machine in their practice, because I really think it's a bit way out. But if you went back in time, what would you fix? Or do you want to go forward and see if how long you're gonna live for? And that would make a big difference, wouldn't it, if you knew? But so it's just a metaphorically speaking machine, which has been very powerful for my soul and for Daniel and other people that have been in it.
I also was very curious about your Facebook profile picture, and when we came here to your art house, we realized that you also have a lot of portraits here. What about Joker?
Joker, yes. Well, look, I'm a massive fan of Heath Ledger. I really sort of thought he was the best Joker ever, and he's just such a nice guy. But the Joker, so a lot of people have asked me about the Joker. I am a practical Joker, so I guess that's part of the relationship to the Joker. On my walls, I've got the Joker everywhere, as you probably noticed, with lots of quotes. So I have daily quotes that I read off the walls. So when I get up in the day, you know, there's one there: never judge people who know nothing about you. Be whatever you believe you can be. So this is my daily sort of ritual, I suppose what you call it, ritual process. So the Joker, for some reason, has just been a part of my life for a long time. I painted the Joker. That's Heath Ledger up there. I don't know. It's just a character that I do wear masks. You know, I did some early works where I wore a lot of masks, and you could hide behind the mask. You don't have to be yourself. You don't have to expose yourself like I am now, and be the person. You know, you can hide behind that. And I do a bit of acting as well in movies and stuff. And again, you play a character, so I really think the Joker is part of that, playing a character and not yourself. So it's just another element of probably the art world or creative world that we live in. It's not just art, it's movies, it's music, it's all those things encompassed in what we are, what I am. You know, don't know that answered your question, but I love the Joker.
It gives me more confusion than clarification. Steve, apart from doing some local workshops, did you do any other collaborative activities for communities?
Yes, in 2006 I went out to Central Australia on an Aboriginal community as a youth worker. A team of us went out there from Mission Australia, and we went on to the communities, and I lived there for 2 years, a community called Imampa community. So it's halfway between Alice Springs and Ayers Rock. And out there I taught junk art, I taught recycling, I taught welding, and I opened a boxing gym there because there was a need for that there, and I have an extensive background in boxing for about 18 years. So out there is a lot of junk on communities, so resources were in abundance. And the kids out there, from very young to teenagers, I would run workshops there, teach the kids how to weld, because gives them a better chance of job prospects as well. Again, their creative minds were just simply amazing because what they could make out there. So what we did, we made stuff that was functional art, functional and sellable. And so we'd make a body of work, we'd head into Alice Springs, and we'd go to art competitions and art shows and sell the work there, and the money would go back to the kids and they could buy clothes or whatever they needed. So the whole process was really, really valuable for them, you know. And part of the workshops we ran, the kids loved music and dance. So these were, you know, pretty crazy workshops. You would have junk art, then the lads and the girls would start dancing. Then out of the junk they found, you know, the 20-litre water bottles would become drums, and old saucepans banged together would become cymbals. So they'd have music there, they'd have dance over here, and have me welding there with the kids. And it was just, leave me there, please, leave me there. It was just fantastic workshops. So I did that over a 2-year period, as well as running breakfast programs we ran, and yeah, so it was a super wonderful experience. And to watch they're natural musicians, natural creative junk artists. And I heard when I left there that they continued on making stuff, and the sculptures would pop up around the community. And we did one big entrance piece to the cemetery there that the kids helped me design, and they welded. So it was the entry to the cemetery at Imampa community. So that part of my life, that 2 years, was incredibly rewarding. And, you know, the kids went on and learned how to weld. They'd be able to fix the community up, welding around the community, things that were broken. Cars, you know, they love their cars, so they'd be able to fix cars and weld bits onto it. So the spin-off effects of welding, and with the resources they had, was, you know, it rejuvenated the whole community. So it was fantastic.
So that was transformational process of the community through your art.
Through art, it just, the whole community just sort of seen this magical new world, and it become, you know, the maintenance as well around the town.
And entering the art prizes also uplifted the community. Was it much significant impact on the kids you worked with?
Yeah, their confidence grew because a lot of the kids out there are very shy, very shy and withdrawn. So if they could make something, we take it into town, they sold it, or we won a particular art prize, which was a monetary prize. We'd stayed at a hotel and we swam in the pool and we bought some great food and, it was just a snowball effect of, good things happening. Then they go back home, we won a trophy. Mum, look what we won. We did it as a group. So the whole group won that trophy and, they go, Mum, look at this, Dad, look at this. And so it was really inspiring.
Entering art prizes for you personally, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, so I'm part of a Mannum Creative Communities group here. I was a founding member, one of the 3 founding members of the Mannum Community Arts group. So we're a community volunteer group. So we hold maybe 6 different events each year. So one of them is the Mannum show, which is coming up in March. And I'm the head installer, so I install all the artworks and also enter. So the ribbons and everything are from the country shows, grassroots stuff, just because you might be a reasonably known artist doesn't mean you're going to win a prize. Got the Mannum, you've got all the regional areas that hold an annual show each year and the whole town gets behind it. So certainly, when you enter, there's no guarantee you're going to win. So you put your work in, and if you win a prize, that's great, I'll be setting that up with the group in early March for this year's annual show. And then they go on to Mount Barker and you go up to different Callington show, Mount Pleasant show, and there's a whole series of shows throughout the year. So our group does that. We also run a pageant for the Christmas. We do a float for that. And we hold exhibitions here at Arnold Gallery down at the Information Centre. We do Sala there. And we do creatability is for people with disabilities. They can enter works. We do works for women's shows, men's shows, school kids get involved. The whole town gets involved in these events that we're running. So this whole town runs on volunteers. It's an incredible town. For volunteers, just keep it going. Everyone pulls together. This is why I like the regional areas, because we are community orientated and we look after each other. So, and art brings, I think you said that, art brings the community together on all levels, from kids up to seniors.
And that keeps creativity to flow into that everyday.
Yep. And that brings people to town, especially for Sala. Sala's a big gig here. We hold Sala Festival every year. Sometimes we do the Fringe. And so it's really community-based, and that's what regional towns are about, pretty much.
Thank you, Steve, for having us here and telling about creativity in the community around this and sharing your insights about your personal art. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming out. Wow, that is just fantastic.